Good day, mate. That is White Clover. I am your host, Adam Trammell. This is the Quack 12 podcast, the most official, unofficial Oregon Ducks podcast in the world.
That's right, Adam. I'm Aaron Schroeder.
I watch way too much Oregon Ducks sports. I don't know. We messed up this intro already.
You know, we do it different every week now. It's great. Adam, this week
yeah.
I watched 3/4 of a game.
Is that so?
That's true.
What are these games?
Huh?
Oh, 3/4 of an Oregon football game is what you're saying. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I watched 3/4 of one singular football game because somebody is terrible at scheduling college football.
You mean somebody's schedule, someone's terrible at scheduling watching college football, or?
No, whoever is in charge of scheduling the freaking games. And then also something has to be done about this rogue asshole called overtime.
Oh yeah. It's getting us that was a pretty fun. Both of these overtime games have been fantastic. That is unfortunate. We should say that.
Yes.
And that's not Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff's fault, by the way.
Well, you know, I'm just going to say it out loud right now.
Okay.
Who's the old guy, Larry David?
No, Larry Scott. Larry David created Seinfeld.
It's a double first name. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
Never happened on Larry Scott's time. That's what I'm going to say.
Happened all the time on his time, actually, and so much worse. But
for real, this is 3 games in a row where it has been kicked over. 3 weeks in a row, I should say, where the game has been kicked over to a different channel. Screws up my entire DVR process. It's horrible, Adam.
Well, what a privileged and terrible life you live. But
it's the worst.
My man. So those 3/4, I'm imagining you watch second, third, and fourth, yeah?
Yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, I think it came in at 13 minutes in the first quarter, maybe. They had scored 14 points already. So however much time was right after that.
Well, I'll tell you this. It was an amazing butt kicking of Colorado. It was finally a game we've been wanting to see for so long here, where Anthony Brown just comes in and takes command, and the Ducks actually get a good lead going. And for a second there, it looked like it could be, I don't think anyone really thought Colorado was going to come roaring back with our, our third string defense or second string defense out there for much of it. And with QB2, we'll talk about him a little later. But it was nice to see that it was like, even when they were getting closer, we were just like, nope, time to pull away a little bit further.
Yeah. There was a moment of concern when when the interception heard round the world happened.
Oh, from good old Ty Thompson.
From old little baby bear. That I was like, okay, we'll probably win, but like by a score.
Yeah.
They're just going to come back and we'll win by 7, and that's the game. That's what I was expecting.
Aaron, I do appreciate that you have the entire season, the entire time, you have backed Anthony Brown as our starting QB, as the QB that's going to take us all the way even.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah,
normally this question might get reserved for Hythloday, but I want to give it to you today.
Okay, let's hear it.
That was a rhyme.
Well, day and day.
Day with day, so yeah, lame.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Yeah, sorry. What was it? The question was, His ability to throw the deep pass this game.
Yeah.
I am assuming that had more to do with the failures of Colorado than with because he was throwing dangerous passes at the same time. At least
Yeah.
according to the announcers, he was being very dangerous.
Well, yeah, he was thrown in the middle of the field a lot more, and they were a
Yeah.
little afraid of that, especially late. That being said, he was doing well doing it. I mean, he had like longs of, he had like a 33-yard pass to Dye, 28-yard pass to Franklin,
Yeah.
25-yard pass to Williams. And I think that intermediate, particularly the intermediate pass, he is just all of a sudden it has turned on ever since the bye week. Because against UCLA, kind of the same deal. Like we were finally like hitting longer shots, even against
Was he
Cal.
clutching above 20 yards on UCLA? I don't remember that.
Against UCLA, I mean, he was picking apart a little bit further than like the screen passes, the little short dinky passes we've been going for. Yeah. First of all, before we get too into football and before we bring in Hythloday,
before we do the
show, I want to do a little shout out to, of course, the one and only Oregon women's basketball team, who played not their first official game of the season, but they did play an exhibition game, and I think it's worth noting because we love our Lady Ducks, or just Ducks, but we love our women's basketball team so much.
Great
It really
program.
keeps us going. Absolutely. Men have not played an exhibition game, but yeah, they played again. I believe they're called the St. Martin's Saints. I don't like that name. St. Martin's Saints was the name. They weren't very good, to tell you the truth. They were really overwhelmed. In fact, after the first quarter, we had a 24-0 lead. And at the half, we had a 47-7 lead. So that's kind of what we were going against. But it was also just really nice to see new players contribute. India Rogers, I believe she played for USC, if I'm not wrong. She was fun as hell to watch, and she's going to be big coming up here. It was also nice to see, the classics, talking about Pow Pow, talking about Maddie Shear looked good out there. Sedona Prince, of course.
Right.
And
she's a senior this year.
What's that?
She's a senior this year?
No, honestly, I get kind of, I could look it up, but I'll tell you.
It's all wishy-washy with the COVID shit, huh?
With the COVID, plus she's had a full year of injury, plus and same with Niara Sabali. I think she's had like 2 full seasons.
It's so confusing, man.
And COVID. So, I mean, like, she's a veteran presence at this point, and especially character-wise, I think she's huge presence on the team. I'm just saying, it's an exhibition game, so we don't want to take too much of it. But I'll tell you this, man, Pow Pow, we had a hard time finding the 3, even when she was on the court. And then later in the season, when she was off due to injury, we had a real hard time finding the 3. In this, she was 4 of 5 from deep. Overall, the Ducks shot really well.
Good.
They look tall as hell. They're taller. Somehow they are taller than they were last season.
And do you have any news on incoming, like freshmen who showed up and were looking smart?
I'll tell you that we definitely transfers were really showing up. Like Shania Pinto, she did really well, 3 of 4 from the floor, and 6 rebounds, 10 points. So hell yeah. And then other than that, no one that really popped out to me too much for an exhibition game playing late,
Of course.
I'll tell you though, so Pinto and Rogers, India Rogers especially, the fact that she got the start right off the bat, I think that's saying a lot. And Maddie Shear looks great.
Remind me of the player's name that was on Arizona that was just a fearsome competitor.
Oh yeah, Ari McDonald.
Yes.
Ooh,
we need to get her to come over.
Oh, I freaking wish. I wish.
In the year of anti-Arizona, Aaron Schroeder says, "Come over."
Come over.
I've already forgotten
McDonald Rover. Yeah, well, that doesn't bode well. Maybe we'll talk to George Kliavkoff about it.
Yeah.
Get him to, push his weight around.
Yeah.
My man, I'll tell you this. It's just I know we're going all over the place though, but that Colorado game felt freaking good. It felt good to look good. and to
Would
dominate.
you argue that we
Mhm.
should have had 72 points?
Well,
Because
I'll
I
tell you
might
this,
say that
we
myself.
could have. And I'll say this, Aaron. I'll say this again, actually, because
Uh-oh.
last week when we talked on this very show, the Quack
You're
12 podcast, that is, I said if they scored more than like 17 points on offense, I'd be a little disappointed. Well, here we got them with 29 points, right? That is a little bit rough. Didn't make me feel too happy, and it got some Duck fans legitimately very not happy. Actually, some Duck fans were just like, no, but you got to look clearly. They were putting in backups. I mean, we had 3 injuries to safeties, a position we
Yeah,
were
dude.
already thin at. 3 injuries.
Yeah, there was so much of that game. If anybody that I would assume is the stuff that everybody gets annoyed with or mad at or, Twitter angry.
Mhm.
You're right. It was nobody. There was maybe one drive where Thibodeau was out where they were kind of stinking it up a little bit on that drive, and I believe it turned into a touchdown for Colorado. But
Well,
it was also the last time Colorado scored, and it was like, or the third. I don't know. I
I'll
don't
tell
think
you.
there's anything to be mad about.
I mean, we're talking about
I
by
think
like,
questions have been answered though.
yeah. I mean,
Ty
dude, I'm
Thompson, not ready,
well, I'll say this because I knew you were going to come in with that. I knew you were going to come
bro.
in with that. Ty Thompson is like, just like it would be ridiculous if he came in and threw, did a 3-play drive on the third play. He just throws a huge bomb for a touchdown, and we're like, he's the best. He should get first.
Yeah,
And it's ridiculous to judge him on that. It'd
I
be
know.
ridiculous. Yeah. Do
I
you?
know.
No, I get it.
Look, I get it. It was his
You're
one
like, he's
drive. He hasn't
donezo.
played all season.
Cut him.
Interception, tough break, had a lot of pressure surrounding him.
He has
I get it.
played.
I would have done the same thing,
Yeah.
but
He played against the whatever, the freaking I can't even, I'm disrespecting the team by not even remembering their name. But the the FCS school we played. You know what I'm talking about. Who knows?
Colorado.
No. Oh, what a diss, my man. What a diss. No, of course I'm talking about the Stony Brook Seawolves. I kept
Yes,
thinking, I'm
Stony
like,
Brook.
there's some kind of aquatic mammal that doesn't belong in the sea. It's the sea wolves. That's right. He played a little bit against them. Yeah.
You want to know a fun fact?
What's that?
Do you know the rapper / comedian Aquafina?
Yeah.
/ now really just actor Aquafina?
Yeah.
She's from Stony Brook.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool?
I like how that didn't come up during our Stony Brook episode.
Just found out like 2 weeks ago.
And you were like, oh, the sea wolves.
Maybe.
Maybe she's a sea wolf. Who
She's
knows?
from there. I don't think she went to college at Stony Brook. She literally grew up in the town Stony Brook. If Wikipedia is telling the truth.
She must have been crushed when the Ducks just blew them up like that.
Yeah.
Just like Colorado, the other FCS school that we played. I gotta say, yeah, anyone's complaining about the 29 points scored, it's like, take a freaking chill pill. And then because we're talking about like in the top of the fourth, we had a 30 we had a commanding lead. I'll tell you that.
I love it. Yeah.
We had it was like 45-14 lead.
Right.
And
it was on that the 20 whenever they got to 21. That was the drive that
then
looked
the
a little
pick.
Sniffy.
Yeah, the Ducks get the pick, and then they score on that one too. And then like this is and this is before we're bringing Hythloday in a moment here to really break down this game.
Yeah,
but
give us the Joyce.
Really, what it reminded me of what that final touchdown drive that Anthony Brown led, where they're like, "Okay, Thompson, you're out. Brown, you're back in." Are you a fan of the Pixar movie The Incredibles?
I've seen it.
Okay. Well, do you remember when Dash, the fast little kid, is racing? Like he's racing in a high school, right? And he's like so much faster.
He's like slowing down.
Yeah, he's like too fast, and they're like, no, you got to go back. And he goes back to like he's like fourth place, and like, well, don't get fourth, that's not good. And he gets like second. And they're like, oh, there you go. That is literally what that final drive felt like to me. Yeah, where it was just like, the college football playoff rankings, the official ones, are coming out on Tuesday, which is today, the day we're recording. We should throw on a little more pepper, a little more style, a little more of a garnish there to wrap this game up and to actually put it like out of commission there. Because
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I wasn't worried. I was not worried. I'll tell you this, but it was a 2-score game in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Technically 45-29, even
Technically.
though we so clearly dominated them. By the way, Aaron, you may not even care about this, and kudos to you for not, if you don't. But speaking of the playoff committee, breaking news, if you will. I think we actually have a breaking news, but we never use this.
Are we in contentions?
Oh yeah, baby. Oh shit.
What did we rank up to?
Well, we don't have a breaking news, but I'll get in. I'll get one of those one of these days. I'll tell you this, Aaron. We are number 4, which would put us in the playoffs.
What happened with Ohio State?
Ohio State, my man. I do believe number 5.
Wow.
So they just because in a lot of people.
You went right into a question that I had, which was this when last we spoke with Hythloday, I believe it was stated that this game needed to be a blowout in order to convince those people.
That's why you would do it, yeah.
So, okay, so that's what happened?
Well, I'll tell you this, Aaron. It's a little bit of that, and I'm sure that affected a little bit. If it was a close game against Colorado, maybe that would have been enough. But the committee clearly made a decision because you can tell through a couple other key like lineups in this, like Iowa and Wisconsin and some other ones in there, that they were like, even though Ohio State probably looks better, Oregon beat them, so they are above them. Like they made the clear decision of that. So I'll just tell you the top 6, and then we'll bring in our man. Number 1, Georgia, undefeated 8-0, looking like world beaters on defense.
Bravo for them.
Yeah. Number 2, Alabama, 7-1 Alabama. Yeah, whatever.
That's the lowest they've been ranked in the last 50 years.
Number 3, Michigan State, Mel Tucker's.
That's
Michigan
right.
State,
wow.
Pretty nuts. 7-1. Mel Tucker, who could have been at Colorado,
they beat Michigan.
Ago.
That's what did it, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Before us. And then so we get in there, 7-1, number 4 playoff spots. Hell yeah. 2 below us. Number 5 is Ohio State. Number 6, undefeated Cincinnati. So there you go. We have the possibility of getting the playoffs. Kind of means nothing. Kind of means everything.
Right.
Who the hell cares? That being said, Aaron, let's bring in
our boy. I've got a burning question.
Our weekly guest, I guess you can call him.
He's our third. He's our third amigo.
Our third host.
He's unfortunately Chevy Chase.
Oh, sorry.
We are obviously.
Obviously,
best friends.
I'm Steve Martin, and you're Martin Short.
I'm Martin Short, obviously.
Obviously, you're as the shortest one among us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is our friend. We bring him all the time. No need for more introduction. If you know this podcast, you hear him every goddamn week. From Addicted to Quack, this is Hythloday 1 at HYTHLODAY, the number 1 at Hythloday 1 on Twitter. Hythloday, how are you doing, friend, after a ferocious beatdown of the Colorado Buffaloes?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Do you care that the Ducks are ranked number 4 in the College Football Playoff Committee's first ranking?
No.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Because, either we're going to win or we're not.
The committee has been very clear. The committee's been very clear every year that it's been very clear that the way that media polls have worked since the inception of media polls, not just the AP, but the Harris poll, and there's several others, that the way that they work is they figure out an initial ranking and then they just move you up and down as you win and lose. Right. Yeah. And the committee has been very clear, and it was honestly the most refreshing thing in the world when they first started doing it in 2014, that no, we re-rank every week. We start from scratch every week. It's not, oh, you were 6 last week and you won, so now we move you up to number 5, or you lost and so we move you down to number 12. It's okay, we will, we will appraise all 130 FBS teams. We will figure out what your resume is, having, the teams that you've beaten and the teams that you've lost to, and, from scratch do a re-rank. And the way that I know that they, do it that way is that for 6 years, I was part of the administration team of a mock committee in which we used exactly the same balloting process that they do, which is actually really interesting if you have any sort of background.
I think we talked about this before.
The last time we were in probably 2019 is my guess.
Or before that even.
Possibly,
like season 1, y'all.
Yeah. And anyway, I won't tell you the whole adventures of the mock playoff committee or get into Arrow's unprovability theorem, but it's really fascinating from a games theory and from a political science perspective how the balloting process works. It's not as obvious as you think. It's a multiple round system. But anyway, every week we predicted the CFP ranking almost perfectly because we used the same process that they did. And, the key to it is the blind re-rank every single week. And so there's only one poll that matters, which is the last poll.
Right.
This is a curiosity at best how anybody's ranked. And I guess I'll put it this way. If this were like a media poll where Oregon debuts at number 4 and then wins the rest of its games, they would never drop out. But that's not how it works. It is entirely possible that Oregon wins the rest of its games and drops out of the top 4. The way that the committee does its, balloting process, right?
Then we got
we saw that in 2014, right, where TCU was in, won the rest of their games, and then dropped out in the last week because the value of their wins had changed and the value of other teams' wins had also changed. So, don't get excited about it.
What we should get excited about is that Anthony Brown looked absolutely fantastic this game. Did a great job. The whole Oregon offense looked pretty damn good. Aaron, I believe you had a question.
I have a big burning question.
Oh, let's
and
hear
it's a bit more about the game rather than the players, so I think it's probably best here. Hythloday, I'm curious to know, from your perspective, was garbage time... Wait, did garbage time begin when we scored our 4th touchdown or when they did an onside kick?
Garbage time began the instant that Devin Williams caught that beautiful post route to make the score 45-14.
Yeah.
Okay. When was that? Shit. I thought for sure the onside kick was a no brainer. Oh shit.
I mean that would be, but 31 points in that late in the game, it's over. There's just no realistic chance of them, coming back at that point.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like that was in the third quarter, I do believe. And I think people are getting pretty stoked about Devin Williams, and I think it's obvious why, because it does seem, and I liked how much they said this. I didn't know this, I guess.
Dude, they talked about it nonstop.
Them being roommates.
Dude.
I actually didn't know that.
Bunk buddies, baby.
And I don't know, it was nice to see that clear connection and to see Brown have the confidence to some of those throws. I mean, there was obviously the one where the guy's around his leg.
Yeah,
which was
that was wild.
A bit of a frantic kind of play, but pretty spot on pass. Pretty impressive that he was able to get up and get it. And I don't know. I think a lot of people are really excited about Williams, and I'm joining that train. Not that I ever left, but yeah. Let me ask you, Hythloday. It does seem like there's suddenly a whole is there any new effort put into the passing game that you've seen, as in to get people open in different spots or targeting, maybe trying to get Williams going, or is it truly just Anthony Brown is playing better? or have you seen them helping him at all?
The answer to the question is Anthony Brown is playing better, and there's really nothing else that's different or that's changed that's significant. The only thing, it's the same offense, it's the same downfield passing tree. They're running the same plays. There's no, I mean, they were already doing what they were doing to engineer guys to be open. And it's not a magic trick. I mean, Joe Moorhead has a couple of magic trick plays, but they're in sort of the RPO run game. In the passing game, it's, I don't want to describe it as traditional because I'm not sure what that means in football anymore, but like there's no magic tricks to the downfield passing game. He stands in the pocket, he reads his progressions, he throws to the dude who's breaking open, on the basis of that route structure. It requires the quarterback to read the defense properly and to make an accurate throw. And like and I think the reason why they selected Anthony Brown as the quarterback, why they, got him to transfer from Boston College, is that having watched his film at Boston College, they and I and many observers, including Urban Meyer of all people, were like, this dude is, this dude's perfect. This dude's, an NFL, he's got an NFL arm. He throws, the way that the NFL values passers. Are skills that Anthony Brown has and does very well. And then for the first, 6 games or so while he's at Oregon, it's just not there. And it's like kind of baffling. Like, I mean, really baffling. Like, I don't have an answer at all. And, what we've seen the last 2 games is like, I'm going to be that guy again, and I don't know where it went. And so therefore I don't have an answer for why it's come back. I simply don't have an answer, but I can tell you that that's the only thing that's changed. The structure of the offense hasn't changed. Now, I can tell you there's one other thing that I guess I should mention, which is that Oregon, for the first through the Cal game, they were about 55% rushing team. And the last 2 games against UCLA and against Colorado, they're more like a 55% passing team. What's the 10% that's changed? It's way more screen passes, a few more downfield passes, but it's mostly that they've really increased the number of screen passes. Now, that may be related to the opponents because, as I documented in my articles, UCLA really can't defend the screen, and Colorado's not as vulnerable to the screen, but they typically are playing with a 7-man box, and you can induce them to play that way, and you can induce them to just not be good against the screen. So like screens are eating into the run count, but it doesn't really change. That's not relevant. Okay, that is relevant to the box score because the box score is stupid and doesn't understand the difference between downfield passing and screen passing. And so when you see Anthony Brown having 20 completions out of 29 attempts, you got to remember that a third of those are screen passes and those are basically automatic completions, and I'm telling you to sort of toss those out. The screens are great, but where they're really getting big yardage and what's really impressive out of Anthony Brown, and also kind of a mystery for where did this come from, or where did it go and how did it come back, is the straight up downfield passing, at which it's not an illusion or anything. It's not, your emotions aren't tricking you. No, he's way better at it now. He just is. It's not that the receivers got better. It's not that they got receivers, it's the same group of receivers. Devin Williams didn't suddenly grow up and become a great receiver. He just started trusting Devin Williams and making throws to that guy.
I think they just became roommates, is my guess.
The
last 2 weeks, they've finally found each other as bunk buddies.
I think they've been roommates the whole time, but they had the classic line taped in between.
Oh, yeah.
There was a big, kind of bottle episode, battle between them, and they finally got through some stuff, and now they're together, and they're going to take us to national championship.
Totally.
Now, the Heisman winner on that national championship winning team will, of course, have to be most likely Travis Dye, 13 carries, 47 yards, but he also got 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown.
Dang.
And so that's another 3-touchdown game for another hat trick for him. And obviously, he's doing great. He's a veteran presence, but the offensive line, you kind of always got to go back to that when you see this amount of rushing success. I remember really early on, I asked you if you thought this offensive line was playing like a national contender, maybe in like week 2 or something like that. Do you think there's been some improvement since then, even with, some turnover and such? Are we closer to that? Have we reached that? What are your thoughts on how this offensive line is performing right now?
Their error rate over the last 5 games has been national championship caliber. The primary thing that's changed in their run blocking effectiveness has not changed at all, and it has always been excellent. And in fact, this is absolutely crazy to me. The last 3 games, Cal and UCLA and Colorado, Oregon's rush per play efficiency has been above 75%, which is insane. 65% is a championship caliber number. Anything that's over 65%, when it pops up, I usually wave my hand at that in my article, and I'm like, obviously that's an unsustainable number, and you'll never see that again. It's just a curiosity. Oh, and it's a low sample size, and single game performances can happen that way. I have never seen 3 in a row. I mean, it is absolutely bonkers. I'm not kidding. I've been doing this for over a decade. I have never seen 3 in a row over 75%. I mean, it's an unattainable, I mean, honestly, the fact that we haven't only been talking about that is crazy to me. It's the most insane thing. Their run blocking is really good. Oregon's run game is really efficient. And pretty explosive too. And it's not just Travis Dye, Brian Cardwell and Seven McGee were getting a lot of good carries. And what's especially bonkers is that how they're reshuffling the line every game. I mean, this is absolutely insane. Yeah. And they're playing guards at tackles and tackles at guards. They've got TJ Bass and Malselo Umavailaulu playing tackle. Those guys are naturally guards. They've got Stephen Jones and Dawson Jaramillo playing guard, and George Moore. They moved him over from left tackle to guard now. Those are 3 tackles who are playing guard. It's like, cats are marrying dogs. What's the line from Ghostbusters?
I just remember that part.
Now
it's true this man has no dick. I don't know.
That's not what I'm referring to. It is absolutely insane what the offensive line is doing now. When you asked me that question way back when, and I said no, the problem was the pass blocking, and in particular, they weren't picking up blitzes very well. And then Alex Forsyth, the center, has been out the last couple of games with, I think, back spasms. Ryan Walk has been snapping the ball, and all of a sudden, they can protect against the blitz. Now, I don't know if that means that Alex Forsyth is not a very good center. I don't think that that's the case, or it probably has more to do with the opponent.
Supposedly should be healthy for the Huskies. I mean, believe.
Who knows, man? But I mean, we all saw it. Nobody's laying a finger on Anthony Brown, right? Like that dude's, they were during the Stanford game, and then after the bye week. These last 3 games after the bye week, no one lays a finger on Anthony Brown.
To be fair, Colorado laid a finger on him, but it was just on his his shins.
That one was pretty funny. But that one was in the offensive line. If you watch that play, that was I believe Dye. He picks up a blitzer, but Dye is making heroic efforts at pass protection, but he's not that big of a guy, and so if Brown's not getting rid of the ball fairly quickly, eventually the dude will just run over Travis Dye and grab him by the leg, and then throw some amazing pass. Look, it was appropriate for you to start out asking me about Anthony Brown's performance, and I spent a long time talking about it and just sort of being, because it's pretty significant. The quarterback is very significant in college football. It's a big mystery, but the real miracle that's happening is that the offensive line is doing stuff that we have never seen before. And with a completely new philosophy about how you're supposed to play the offensive line. You should be writing books about this. I'm not this is so unusual what's happening with the offensive line. It's just absolutely bonkers to me.
I assume by switching them around like this, it also makes it very impossible for our opponents to get a good read on what we may end up doing when it's their turn to play us. Is that correct?
I don't
Or does that matter all that much?
I don't really think that there are some teams that you watch where you're like, oh, that dude is the weak link. Attack that dude. So,
Uh-huh.
like, maybe you remember the USC game in 2020 when their right tackle was super weak, and Oregon clearly identified that and put Kayvon Thibodeau on that guy's side, and blew him up. Occasionally, you find that. I don't really think that that's the case for any one Oregon offensive lineman, and therefore moving some dude around is a shell game where you're playing like hide the
Right.
vulnerability, especially because they're playing like up to an 8-man rotation. I don't really think that's the case. I think I think that Alex Mirabal believes every week he trots out his best configuration of dudes or rotational configurations of dudes, and how he makes that determination on a week-to-week basis is a total unknown to me. He may be a genius, like he may be somebody who needs to write a book.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Because he's like redefining what offensive lines do. I am not kidding about this. I know this sounds like hyperbole and being like a fan
This is a Homer
and
podcast.
squeeing over. Like,
Yeah.
I promise I am not squeeing over the offensive line. This is very unusual. Like the standard practice at every college football team for 50 years has been you select your best 5 linemen, including putting the natural tackles at tackle and putting the natural guards at guard, and you know what those body types look like. And then unless somebody gets hurt, you play those 5 guys on every snap in every game, and that's that. And this is like, it's like, because if you want to build a brick wall, you select the strongest bricks and you put them in place and you don't move them around. And Alex Mirabal's like, actually, the strongest wall is a force field in which we move the atoms of the bricks around like
Totally.
a comic book
Yeah.
hero. Like, it's bonkers what's happening. And nobody's talking about it because nobody talks about offensive line play because nobody's watching film very closely. It's crazy to me.
Well, I love it, first of all. I want to do a quick shout out to, obviously, we said Cardwell. He scored his first career touchdown for the Ducks, so hell yeah. And then one more young Duck who scored, I believe, a first career touchdown, Troy Franklin. 2 receptions, 44 yards, 1 touchdown.
That's right.
And the one thing I love is 11 pass catchers, which is something we've done quite a bit throughout this entire season, is spreading it out, which is one reason why no one receiver has necessarily, jumped up as like the number one, though. Honestly, the whole as a unit, it is a complete strength. Everyone has been showing up really well. As far as
there are weaknesses in over specializing in a single dude. Ask USC. I mean, I'm not trying to dance on Drake London's grave or anything. It was really heartbreaking. That dude's on path to win a Blitnikoff, but like, over specialize and you breed in weakness.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I especially the perfect combination of like the slightly, the less talented quote unquote players are veteran quite often, and then the most talented ones are younger but just already ready to be plugged in an offense. So it was.
And what happens is that Johnny Johnson goes out. They're a super veteran guy. He's out for the second half due to that weird targeting on a special teams thing. He'll be out for the first half against Washington.
Right.
Anybody batting an eye about that? No.
Forgot about that.
Because Oregon's wide receiver core is really deep and they distribute the ball to everybody, and they're not in a position where if one guy is unavailable, the offense goes to hell.
Like that is honestly amazing because I legitimately forgot he was not in the game.
Which I don't think that's a slight to Johnny Johnson. I don't know.
It's just
Johnny,
everybody
or
else
if your
is
mom
just
or
also
listening,
firecrackers, man.
Yeah, it's that is a testament to this is the proper way to build a team. This is the proper way to build depth. It's why in the summer Adam had to sit on all those podcasts in which I talked to all these, writers for all these Pac-12 teams, and I'm asking them depth questions, and they're telling me about like, oh man, we got this recruit. He's a superhero. He's a stud. He's like, yeah, and that means you're one tweaked ankle away from your offense going to hell. Like anybody who wants to tell me about their one, I've got one weird trick to win the Pac-12. there's no weird tricks to winning the conference. You have to
Yeah.
build a deep roster.
Because then all of a sudden you got 3 safeties getting injured in one game.
Yeah, now
Wow.
the defense.
That's right.
Yikes.
Supposedly, I have read today in an article that Cristobal has said that all 3 should be good to go.
I certainly hope so. I mean, we had already talked about how the inside linebacker depth was really, just getting brutalized, and they're having to play a true freshman safety, and a walk-on at their other ILB spot. And then the safety spot was getting pretty bad too, with Stevens and Bennett Williams and, Happel, all
wild.
being out. I guess the guy that you're referring to is Verone McKinley, who was like minor dinged up.
I think they were just like, and this is again one of the reasons I wanted to get into this too. I already said it a bit, but there were a little more points than either you or I wanted scored on these teams. Some of that is just clearly like Verone.
Well, the last 2 were garbage time.
Yeah,
it's just like
clearly garbage. But there was a bit of like, they're pushing us around. However, when you're scoring, I mean, it felt like a Chip Kelly days. Honestly, it's like, well, when you're scoring at will, when you're scoring on every damn
that's
drive,
kind of what I felt like. I was like, they can keep scoring. We've shown that we're not going to not score.
I mean, I think I don't necessarily agree with that take, but I do think that is the solution. If Oregon doesn't get healthy at inside linebacker and at safety, and they're playing 4th stringers at both of those positions, then it is inevitable you're going to give up more points than if you had the starters. And if you're inevitably going to give up more points, then guess what? Your offense has to go get more points. It's just, that's the only, we don't have access to med kits from Doom where you just throw a white box with a red cross on it onto a player and suddenly they're healthy again. Like, it doesn't work that way. Bennett Williams has season-ending injury. It's just the way that it works, and that Oregon, basically for this game they had 3 inside linebackers and 3 safeties out. Williams and Happel and Stevens, and if Oregon. This is kind of gruesome or macabre to think about, but let's say that Oregon had to take 6 injuries on the defense. If it were spread around all the positions, right? So it's like 1 defensive tackle is out, and 1 DE, and 1 OLB, and 1 ILB, and 1 safety, and 1 corner. Like, it wouldn't. They wouldn't have given up 14 points before garbage time, like that would have been, tolerable. The fact that they're all concentrated in 2 positions means that those positions are now playing 4th stringers. And like I try to document in my article, it's the number 1 problem with the defense is that like, okay, that's a true freshman 4th stringer, or that's a converted wide receiver, and he's out of position on that play. And that's why the play goes big. And those big plays are the reason why they got their point. I tried to document that in my article too. The 2 times that they score outside of garbage time are the times when they got explosive plays. And why did they get explosive plays? Well, the major one, to be worried about is dude's out of position because he's a 4th stringer. Because that's what,
Yeah, that's why he's on the 4th string. It was, I don't know. It has been feeling lately like the beating of Colorado has become a just something you can rely on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's only been twice in a row or something like that.
Well, to be honest, I got to give a lot of credit. I mean, you were on that podcast we did with Jack, and we talked about like Colorado's offense, and like, Colorado fans are sort of
alive. Yeah.
Well, I give them a lot of credit. Like I was saying that their offensive line was the first and foremost problem, and you have to give them a lot of credit. Like, I didn't think this would happen. But what I said was the first thing you have to do is fix your offensive line, because it's always going to be terrible, no matter what. And they fired their offensive line coach. And remember, I joked around like, oh, it's not like Mitch Rodriguez, their fired offensive line coach, was putting cayenne pepper in their jock straps, before games and causing them to actively play poorly. And therefore, if you fire him and he stops therefore being able to do that, they will suddenly bounce back and be a good offensive line again. But like,
apparently,
damn, man, maybe he really was a double agent from Nebraska who was sabotaging, Colorado's offensive line performance. Because like, it's not like they suddenly became a great offensive line. That wasn't really the reason, why they were able to get done what they were able to get done. But like, it meant that they were not a god-awful offense that was going to score 0 points. It elevated them instantly from a terrible offense to a mediocre offense. And if you're a mediocre offense, there you can do stuff with that, And the other thing, and namely the thing that they did was that they also went through their playbook and they got rid of all the plays that weren't working. They got rid of all their 12 personnel under center stuff. They got rid of all their power runs that they couldn't execute. They got rid of all their sit in the pocket for 3 seconds and throw a deep shot. Like they got rid of all of that stuff and they just ran the sort of spread offense stuff that, they were having some success with. And they're like, it's almost like they hired an analyst who was
it's because they listened to the goddamn Quack 12 podcast.
I know it's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
I think it's
everybody.
clear. Every goddamn week you get some lowly QB. I mean, maybe talented, but like a Brendan Lewis, but ain't putting up stats.
I tried to tell people that I thought that Brendan Lewis was a good quarterback, and I got so much pushback from Colorado fans.
Too. Yeah, Jack. From Colorado fans?
Yeah, not Jack. Jack didn't push back on that one because he was, he repeatedly said we're a pro Brandon Lewis, podcast. But from other Colorado fans from other corners of the internet, we're all lighting up my mentions and getting on me on Reddit. It was just like, no, the problem is that Brendan Lewis is a terrible quarterback, and I'm like, I don't think he is, man. Like I watched this film, and like if you give him time to throw, he's got a pretty good arm. Throwing it to Brendan Rice is like a really good idea. That guy.
Shout out to Rice too.
Like that dude can win 50-50 balls. That one that he caught against DJ James, even though it was perfect coverage, was almost identical to a play that he had against Arizona, in which he also won a 50-50 ball. Like, you give this guy some protection by having a better offensive line, and the quarterback's not the problem. I try to be very clear, and Colorado fans weren't, or some anyway. There's like a civil war within that fan base, but I don't know. Like I feel like I was telling people you got to fix the offensive line, number one, and number two is you got to get rid of these plays that aren't working. And if you do both of those things, then the quarterback will get the rest of it done for you. And I feel like that view was vindicated, even though I didn't think it was possible. Like I didn't think that Darren Chevrolet would perform that analysis, and I didn't think that firing Mitch Rodriguez would fix the offensive line. And both of those things happened, and so therefore, I guess I have some egg on my face. On the other hand, it is exactly the scenario that I outlined to Jack for how they would perform, improve their offense. So I don't know, I should get some credit, right?
Can't wait till Dylan Morris looks like a goddamn Heisman candidate against us.
Well, hey, I want to ask about their defense line. Is that standard practice that they go offsides that much?
No, that was totally new. I don't.
Because
helped us out.
That was never. Yeah, they were not doing that in previous games. Okay. I mean, once in a while, but
it got to a point where I was actually annoyed because it was slowing the game down so much.
No, I don't know. That was just them messing up.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand that at all. It was also in my preview of Colorado. It was the thing that I flagged. Is I definitely think the best unit on Colorado's team, offense or defense, is their defensive line, and Oregon's offensive line destroyed them. I mean, just completely destroyed them. And it would be easy, obviously the easy thing for an Oregon fan to say would be like, well, that's because Oregon's offensive line are, a crew of murderers. And
there you go.
And even they go against the best, Georgia's defensive line, which I guess they're going to have to do next year. And it'll be fine. I sort of think something else, frankly, I don't understand it. I don't understand all those, offsides jumps. I don't get it. It's not like they'd never played a team who uses a clap cadence before.
Dude, that clap. God damn.
But Oregon's always been doing that.
And we only got called on it once in a game, and then didn't get called on it for all the other times.
Aaron, you're talking about the disconcerting signals thing.
Did you hear the stat? Camden Lewis, the only Pac-12 kicker that's still perfect.
I can't believe he said that out loud. I mean, I knew that was true, but that's like commenting on a perfect game in baseball. Oh, you just jinxed the hell out of that kid. What are you doing?
I believe too much in my man Camden Lewis at this point. I love.
Wait, how is he perfect? I thought he's missed an extra point.
I think
in field goals.
Yeah, they just held it to field goals. Yeah.
Well, that was his biggest issue, so that makes me feel great, honestly.
Oh yeah,
it is. I mean, that's another one where I don't have an explanation. I mean, I never have an explanation for special teams. I don't do film study on them, but Beats me.
I think he just clicked. I think he just, for some reason, it took an entire season for him to feel comfortable in front of people.
I'll tell you this, Aaron. From now on, like Cristobal does do some coach speak, especially like injury kind of wise and stuff like that. But if he tells me or tells the media that he believes in one player or one player looks amazing in practice or one player over another player, I don't think he's playing games in that. I think he apparently 100% believes that, and he's seen some good stuff because he's always saying that about Camden Lewis, saying about Anthony Brown.
You know, the funny thing too about him, I was thinking about this while watching the game because they were showing they were cutting to him a lot in the beginning.
Mhm.
And I really was like, this is a coach who knows absolutely everything that's about to happen. And he gets pissed whenever it doesn't happen the way he knows it's supposed to happen. But like he looks like he's already won the game in the first 3 minutes of the game.
If that's true, Aaron, then I'm pissed he let that pass from Jaden Daniels go unguarded in 2019. That's all I got to say. Y'all, any final thoughts on this game? It was a beatdown. It was wonderful. It felt like a net crack game. Any final thoughts before we get into our next segment? Aaron?
Well, I asked about the defensive line. I asked about garbage time.
Any deep? I didn't read any deep conspiracy theories this week.
Oh wait, no, we have the conspiracy theory.
What's that?
Anthony Brown is such an amazing quarterback that he's quite possibly shaving points and hiding it as sponsorships.
Okay.
And that's why the games always end up as close as they do.
I don't like that before you said, oh yeah, we do have a conspiracy theory. You took a moment, literally put your hand to your chin to think up a conspiracy theory.
Well, no,
we're not here making up conspiracy theories. I want to report on the ones that are already out here.
Hythloday, would you like to comment on these thoughts?
These allegations?
No, here's my parting thought. Since having a punt blocked on the second drive against UCLA, Oregon's punter, Tom Snee,
Australian, good day,
has not been seen.
Oh, yeah.
Good day indeed, mate.
I guess so.
Every other drive that Oregon has had since that blocked punt has been a touchdown, a field goal, or a turnover.
Hey, let's keep it up.
Wow.
Maybe not that last one, but I thought you meant he was just. I thought you meant.
I mean, I don't mean that I think he's been affected by aliens. I mean,
I was like,
this is conspiracy. This is the conspiracy theater.
But still,
amazing. It's really been a big turnaround, and you don't account, or a lot of fans don't account for sometimes people need some game experience, even if you're a vet, to get better. Dude, sometimes you got to gel with everybody.
It's similar to the 10,000 hours thing. Like you do something for 10,000 hours, you should be a master of it. It's like you just got to, or like when you're on a tour, the first 3 to 6 shows, you're kind of getting your fucking headspace right. But by week 3, when you've got 12 under the belt, it's just like, I
get
and it just takes some people a little bit longer on the tour to warm up.
Yeah. All right. Before we go into our next segment, you bringing up Tom Snee, who's from Australia, I do believe, reminded me. I just want to do a shout out to our Australian listeners. We're number 82 in Australia for a college football podcast.
Wait, did we just go up? Weren't we 89 or 84?
I think we went up, or I'm misremembering it, but who's going to prove me wrong?
It's Tom Snee.
Yeah.
He's entirely responsible.
That honestly could be it could be one person.
I just suggested that he got picnic and hang rocked, and you're suggesting that he exclusively is listening to this podcast. I love it.
Yeah. So why don't you take a few stubbies short of a 6-pack? Huh? There go, mate. Have a little fast suck of the sauce bottle.
Where are you getting these from?
I think he made the last 2 up.
I mean, we'll see. Well, you think that was a segment. This is a segment.
Bottom 11.
All right, folks. We already
That's
talked.
not a great transition, bro.
We already talked about number one in the pack,
Woo,
leading the pack, if you will, and that is the Oregon Ducks. It's really wonderful when this isn't like a lie of a segment, when it really is we're number one.
It's true.
Bottom 11. So let's talk about the rest of the Pac-12, the bottom 11, if you will. Let's start it off with a goddamn head scratcher. Not because Arizona State lost, but more that Washington State is suddenly coming alive without half their goddamn staff.
The anti-vaxxers are gone. The morale has gone up.
I guess. And
maybe that's addition by subtraction, man. Like maybe they were dumb not to get vaccinated and they were holding the team back.
Yeah. Maybe we should take this as a lesson, America. No, but 34 to 21.
Like all the hospitals that are firing people who won't get vaccinated and like health outcomes are improving. It's like, getting rid of our stupidest employees.
Yeah, we fired everyone on our staff, on the Pac-12 staff that wasn't getting vaccinated.
Very good.
Things have only been going smoother.
I approve.
I elect we gather up all of our stupidest humans.
I don't like this.
And we send them to Mars to begin the next phase of the human genome.
Well, I'm glad that you're beginning the next phase of your tyrannical reign, because that's usually the kind of talk that starts that.
I guess that's a pretty bad. Yeah.
Once you start saying, why don't we take all the people, gather them up? It's usually
bad idea.
We got.
I hear it now.
Yeah.
I hear it now. Bad idea.
We can't have the Quack-12 podcast gathering.
Wow.
Up.
Okay, but Arizona State. Wow. Wow. They lost.
Washington State wins 34 to 21. This is in Tempe. And it's just like I believe there was 4 turnovers, I want to say, in the first half for Arizona.
They basically start the first 3 possessions with turnovers. Like, it was crazy.
Terrible. And Wazoo was just like a decent enough team in every phase to win. To beat Arizona State, who is not disciplined and making mistakes all over the place. And Wazoo, get this, Aaron. Wazoo, who I think is I want to say they're at 4-4. I should definitely have this up, but they actually still totally have a chance of winning the Pac-12 North, which would no, they are 5-4 overall.
Wow.
They have a 4-2 conference record. We have a 4-1 conference record, and obviously we have yet to play them. So Wazoo,
interesting.
I would be so pissed. Can you imagine 8-4 Wazoo wins Pac-12 North? Oh man, I hate it. But
if you recall, when we were doing our preseason picks, it's the game that I predicted that Oregon would drop.
Oh, against Wazoo?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is I'm gonna be so pissed if you're right. If we had to lose one game on the remainder of our schedule, I guess that's the one, because I don't want to lose the Beavers.
No, we're not going to lose another game. It's impossible.
Okay, good point. Speaking of which, the game after that was Oregon's 52-29 beatdown. So there you go. Which that Michigan State game, I did enjoy watching that beforehand, but then I had to switch over. I honestly did not. This is the one game I didn't even watch any of the recap of. So I'm hoping you watched this, Hythloday. I know Aaron didn't watch it because I'm very curious of this one. USC 41, Arizona 34. So they did make it a game.
Wow.
And spoiler alert for the pick'ems, I did pick Arizona, so I do feel like at least I was like,
no, I really think my anti-Arizona thing is working.
Yeah. I mean, so far, picking against those teams was definitely a good idea, especially against Arizona. You've chosen against the Wildcats every week, maybe for one, I forget, but every week, and they have not won. So you have been right on every single pick.
That's right.
Did you see this USC Arizona game at all?
Nope. I refuse to even allow any team from Arizona to be played on my television.
Oh, well,
I anti-Arizona year, Adam.
No Cardinals either.
Nothing.
Okay.
Even if they're playing the Seahawks, I won't do it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I don't think anyone wants to watch Seahawks this year. I know Drake London got hurt. Amazing player. But did you have any thoughts on this game? I saw there was a pick six. Arizona was rallying back. Looks like it could have been.
It was the game we were talking about would be a toss up, right?
I mean, USC's defense is real bad.
Yeah.
Which
clearly,
as I think I predicted at the beginning of the year, and they've got a quarterback controversy. USC is a quarterback controversy, and they only had one functional receiver, and now he's no longer functional. Like I sort of think UCLA is going to destroy this team, in whatever week they play. Yeah, no, USC is real bad. And Arizona Arizona was never as terrible as Arizona. They're on like a 20-game losing streak, but like they're not that. They're not as terrible as that. It's stuff.
They're
like,
not as bad as a 20-game losing streak. That is true.
They have like functional aspects to them. It's just like they can't. They need to figure out their quarterback situation. I would just go with Joyner. Like they had the quarterback that they converted to a wide receiver, and he was their best wide receiver. Then they converted back to a quarterback, and he's their best quarterback. It's just like, guys, figure it out. Like,
if they would have just goddamn transferred to the triple option already, they would be they'd be doing better now. I'll tell you that much.
Is their coach Sherm?
No, Herm Edwards. That's Arizona State.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. No,
I can never remember where he coached at.
No, the Arizona Wildcats head coach is, of course, and this is, of course, not me stalling because I forget this bland man's name. Jed Fish.
Jed Fish
is this dude. He wins a game. I'll remember his name. All right.
Win a game?
No, I mean they're not going to win the game through the end of the year. I can't really see any obvious,
I'd have to look at the rest of their
opportunities.
Schedule,
but I mean, look at how many teams they've played close. They're not. They're not getting destroyed in these games. They played Oregon close. They played UCLA close. They played USC close. They played Washington close. I
still will say they're better. They're a better team than USC. I still would say that.
They're not. USC has way too much talent, but for a team that has for Arizona, for a team that has as little talent as they have, and then as horrific as a quarterback situation as that happened during the year, and they started out the year with the wrong playbook. That's on Fish. But this, what he's done culturally for that program is astonishing, and it doesn't show up in the wins column, unfortunately, but I like those guys to have a better 2022. I think that's a program that probably has better culture than a number of teams in this league. Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for them at this point,
because it's also it's a total Russian roulette situation or some kind of less dire analogy, but it does feel like
spin the bottle,
duck goose. Yeah, spin the bottle. Yeah, there you go. It does feel like whichever hopefully Pac-12 team loses to Arizona, it's like, oh, you got that Arizona stank on you now. That will never,
and then they'll be cursed.
Then they lose 20 games. Oh god, it's gonna be us. So after that, we had another head scratcher for me. I had a lot more faith in the Beavers. Certainly than the Golden Bears. Not that the Golden Bears had looked terrible. There's a lot of close games. The Golden Bears had played too, but they had looked pretty mediocre in a lot of aspects of the game. However, against the Beavers, it's more back and forth than you'd think with this score, but 39-25. 39-25. They defend the Berkeley, California home that they played at. It was I was surprised. I was surprised as hell, honestly, because I really thought
turnovers. It's basically a pretty evenly played game, which I expected that to be the case. but the Beavs turned the ball over 3 times and the Bears 0 times, and that's that. Although I guess actually the Bears did a better job than I was expecting them to in containing Oregon State's rushing offense, and I will eventually have to do film study on this game. I don't yet have an answer for why that was. I don't think they were out any necessary players. And I don't think that Oregon State's running attack is like a smoke and mirrors kind of deal where if you have like, oh, you just need to do this one thing, you'll totally shut it down. I don't really think that's the case for Oregon State. So I'm not really sure why that was. I eventually I'll, the Oregon plays Oregon State is the last game of the year. So, I haven't really done much film study on them, but I am curious about that one. But no, most of this game outcome can be explained by like, that's what happens when you lose the turnover battle 3-0 against a team that is, roughly as talented as you are. And
Are
and
those forced fumbles or interceptions or what were they?
they had a forced fumble on, I believe, the first play of the game.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And then the other two
were
interceptions that Chance Nolan. I mean, I think we sort of always knew that Nolan was not, the greatest quarterback in the world. And that, they were basically like Oregon State was a run the ball, run the ball team, and then like occasionally throw a play action pass, to keep the defense honest or to take advantage of the defense, stacking the box against the run. And like no one could pull that off. But if it was like, dude, we need you to throw the ball to win the game, I don't really think he's the quarterback to do that. And sure enough, he throws 2 picks and puts them deeper in the hole.
Well, all I'm saying is if Neuer the Destroyer was starting every single game, every single minute, they'd be undefeated. So that one surprised me. And then Utah.
I guess sorry, before we move,
continue, please.
I guess what I think if they play that game 10 times, you don't get Cal wins 10 times. A turnover, 3-0 turnover margin. That's kind of it's an unusual event. And I think if you replayed this game, a few more times, you'd probably get a few more Oregon State wins out of it. It's just what happens in a otherwise evenly matched game when you have an unusual result like that.
I agree.
You think they win 3 out of those 10? You think they win 6 out of those 10?
Yeah, a 6. I think probably Oregon State wins this game 6 times out of 10.
Wow.
There you go. Now here we go.
Utah
defends their home against the battered, the bruised Bruins. That is right. Ethan Garbers, brother of Chase Garbers. That's right, Aaron.
Who actually had 5 more passing yards than Chase did.
Oh, there you go. You can rub
in
that
a losing effort.
In a losing effort. Yeah, I had this game. I watched most of this game. I had it on the background, flipping back and forth. But it just never really felt like UCLA was going to really pull it off. I didn't think Garbers looked too bad, but he didn't give them the positive that DTR usually gives them if he was playing in there. Well, at the same time, like if DTR is in there, I'm not thinking they're going to beat this Utah team in Salt Lake City.
How long is he out for?
I don't know. I haven't.
No one knows. They don't tell him.
If
you look at the advanced box score on this game, it's pretty interesting because the passing attempts go way up in the second half. It was pretty clear that Chip Kelly was like, we need to. I mean, for UCLA. For Garber specifically, Chip Kelly knew he had a baby quarterback in, and he tried to like coddle him and just run the ball, in the first half. And in Utah's rush defense is not great, but they were doing enough to, and the offense was clicking enough. They had like a 21-point second quarter where it was like, okay, we're going to need you to throw the ball, Ethan. And he turns out to be like not a bad passer. They probably should have been doing that from the get-go. Yet another game in which UCLA has terrible third down efficiency, but then goes for it on fourth down a ton. And like, I think this is their second straight game in which they're 7 for 9 on fourth down attempts. Like,
jeez,
it's just like,
shit.
Yeah, no, roll the dice, man.
Yeah. Take it with shit like that. They should have Chance Nolan on that team.
I mean, I guess I put it this way: from watching this game, like I think UCLA's offense played well enough to win the game. But the problem was just defensively, Utah was, they couldn't stop Utah at all. And I don't think that Utah has an unstoppable offense. I think that UCLA's defense is just terrible.
Yes.
And figured out, more to the point, like I think the teams have just figured out how to beat UCLA's defense, and they're probably going to have a tough go of it for until they make some changes.
Which
And so what? The Utes are just clicking again all of a sudden?
I don't actually really have a good answer for that, and Oregon has to play Utah coming up. And the other thing is
Right.
that having
Maybe
won
twice.
this game, yeah, almost certainly twice,
Yeah.
unless Oregon, it's more likely that Oregon doesn't make the
Yeah.
Pac-12 championship game than Utah doesn't make the Pac-12 championship game. The scenario for Utah not to make the Pac-12 championship game is extremely,
Yeah. They'd
Oh,
have to
because
lose
everybody
like,
else sucks so
what,
bad.
like 2
well,
or 3.
it's because they have the tiebreaker. They own the tiebreaker now against the other 3 teams in the South who could compete with them.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
they'd have
so
to lose every game, basically. Something.
they Utah would have to lose 2 out of their following 4 out of their final 4, and only one of them looks like a game that they could lose, which is the Oregon game. The other 3 look like gimmies. Whereas for Arizona State to catch them, because Utah owns the tie, Arizona State would have to win out. And Utah would have to lose those 2 games, and Arizona State's schedule is just way tougher. They've got to play Washington and Seattle. They've got to play USC still. They've I forget what the rest of their schedule is. Obviously Arizona, that's not I forget what the 4th team is, but it's not I think Stanford. So like, yeah, ASU's odds of winning out are low, and Utah's odds of losing 2 games are low, and both of those things have to happen. So Utah's almost certainly clinched the South at this point. So I'm gonna have to learn a lot about Utah.
Yeah, Utah, and I'm curious too, because I have seen bits and pieces of Utah like throughout, and they've got such a baffling season where it's just like, some of their highs or stuff where it's like, wow, look, they're really kicking the crap out of USC. And then weeks later, you're like, oh, no, apparently everyone can do that.
Right.
And then lows of just like, oh, wow, Oregon State's thrashing them around. And then Oregon State doing the same thing.
Or BYU beat them for the first time
in
forever. But then BYU goes on to beat every Pac-12 team they play.
Yeah. Honestly, I would love to play BYU. I wish they were up on the schedule.
You'll get your wish in next year.
True. And then final game of the last week, Washington beat Stanford 20-13.
This game is so terrible.
They did four goddamn field goals. Were the first scores from Washington. So it was
this is one of those boring games,
dude. It was brutal. I believe it was 12-6 or something like that for a while, and then Stanford scored a touchdown, and then Washington does a final drive, scores his touchdown, picks off McKee. There's also I believe a couple of turnovers throughout this game, and that's Washington. They won it.
I believe it's 3-0 on the turnover margin,
which I did call. I called that at least, but then I said Stanford would win. I said Stanford would throw. Well, technically, I said McKee would throw 3 interceptions and they would win the game. That did not happen.
Damn.
Well, you came close. I mean, it was 2 interceptions and a fumble,
and they almost won the game. But this was the way. If Stanford's gonna, continue.
If you're +3 in the turnover column and you only win by 1 touchdown, then you suck. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I agree. And you scored 1 touchdown against a team not known for having a back-breaking defense. Like,
well, and the other thing was that it was like Stanford, like, they kept throwing into a good pass defense, and they just abandoned they abandoned the run, which they probably shouldn't have. And oh man, it was just like it was crazy. I sent out a tweet about this. Like, it's David Shaw being stubborn, but he's being stubborn about throwing the ball. It's just like, oh, I'm glad to know there's one characteristic of yours that never changes, which is stubbornness.
Yeah, he'll go back and forth on that, but that stunk. I wanted to see Stanford win, but I don't. And in either way, I guess it would have been better for Stanford to win, but who goddamn cares? And it was the way, like, if Washington's gonna win a game in 2021, they're gonna win it like this way. They're gonna do it by hopefully our defense. Hopefully you're throwing all the time. and
boring the other team to
well,
death.
yeah, they're going to be like, hopefully we are just able to sit on you enough and your offense is bad enough where you're truly not going to be able to score more than, 20 points. And then hopefully, I don't know, like they by some goddamn miracle, they can get like enough points to beat a team.
I mean, I would love to see Oregon just like never throw a pass.
Sure, we may not need
Washington.
to.
Like, or just only screens. You just like don't even bother. You don't need to. Like if
Travis
Oregon's
Dye
rushing at
Wildcat.
75%,
That's
and
it.
and Washington's rush defense is this bad, let's just like, yeah, just run the ball every time.
It seems, yeah, and like I hope I'm excited for this to see Oregon's defense against this truly truly terrible Washington offense, to see Kayvon Thibodeau like take on like Dylan Morris. Like by the end of that day I may feel bad for him. Like,
yeah, Washington's just arrogant enough to think that they can stand in the pocket and throw, deep balls. Like, and they kind of have to, because the only way they get explosive plays, because they don't have an explosive rushing offense at all, or really any kind of rushing offense. Dylan Morris having to set up in the pocket with his big wind up to hurl the ball deep, and Kayvon Thibodeau coming for their tackles. Like, that could be. Colorado made the wise decision to just pull those plays out of their playbook. They never tried to set up in the pocket, for deep throws, like, because they were just like, we can't survive this pass rush, get the ball out of the quarterback's hand instantly. Like UCLA was arrogant enough to think that they could do that, and they paid the price. And I feel like Washington is arrogant enough to do the same thing.
That has been pretty amazing too, because I feel like Stanford did that a bit too, getting the ball out a little quicker or getting it away from Thibodeau. And it's just amazing to have a player where it's just like just his presence in the game for the full 4 quarters makes it so the other team has to figure out, like, has to have a different game plan because of one player on defense. It's pretty fantastic, and it's why we should get more 5 stars. That's always been
specifically 5-star edge rushers. Like it's really the only, the phenomenon that you're observing is correct. His mere presence affects the game. It's why those dudes go first in the draft, is because they're game changers. Like quarterbacks and 5-star edge rushers are game changers. And everybody else is like, well, it's nice to have, I need lots of bricks in my wall, but those dudes change things.
Hell yeah. That being said, let's get into the final segment of this. Quick, I need an Australian saying. I've got this page pulled up. What's the John Dory?
There we are.
Expression means, but there you go. Didn't you give us one last week? You said something about like getting stanko or dranko.
Oh, you mean you go on a smoko?
Smoko.
Yeah.
I love you crazy bastards over there. That being said, final segment. The picks.
Adam, I'd love to open up this segment by saying and asking, did I get a perfect score this week?
Did you get a perfect score?
Did I get all 5
You've
right?
been sitting there just planning it, right? You've just been sitting in your head being like, okay, how many? I know I got that.
Yeah, I was like, did I get that one? I think
and
I got that one.
You're really thinking about it. How well did I do? Well, let's see, Aaron. The Great Pick'em Challenge, as you all see. Here they are, mine on the left, Aaron's on the right. And now we will reveal this is bigger than the college football.
Oh, dang. I went with Oregon State. I really did thought I went
First of all, for me, pretty bad day for me, as you can see. I went with Oregon, and that was my correct pick. And then for Aaron Schroeder, everyone but the Oregon State pick. So damn close. So that would leave us in the inverse score here. I got 1 correct. And you got 5 correct.
Thank God Oregon won to keep you above water, bro.
Dear Lord. What if that was the week I chose go against Oregon too?
That would be hilarious.
Colorado. Yeah. So that of course, congratulations, first of all.
I just ran away with it.
We were super close last week.
That's
right. I had gotten into within 1 point of you, and then boom. Suddenly you 39 points to 34 points. So from now on, I can tell you my strategy. I'm picking against every goddamn thing you do, my man.
Oh, wow.
I have to. You're up by 5. I have to.
You do.
There's only so many weeks left. Unless
Okay,
unless I think there's one.
I need to harness my Zen state for these picks because I want to get up by 10.
Well, have you been doing? Oh, damn you. Okay. Did you harness your Zen state last time?
I think I was just naturally in it.
Maybe you got to do that then. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go natural.
Okay, all natural.
Okay,
First of all, by the way, I love your all yellow duck look. You know that's my favorite uniform of yours.
Dude,
the bucket
speaking
hat.
of which, I don't ever want to see another bee costume on an Oregon Duck football player for the rest of my life. It made no sense.
A bee? You saw a bee costume?
They were wearing black and yellow. They looked like a bunch of bees.
Oh, you mean like a uniform?
Yeah, it was.
No. I thought you were talking about
the
costumes.
thing I wanted to talk about earlier. I forgot about that.
There was costumes in the stands because it's Halloween. I thought you were talking.
Well,
about
those
I like the girl dressed up as Guy Fieri. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the spider. There was like 6 Spider-Men. I thought that was really funny. Just to have 6. I always think that's terrible.
I saw the Mario Brothers crew.
Oh yeah, that was good. I loved seeing that. And honestly, damn, did it feel good. That was like, I think it was probably the first game watching it on TV where I felt like this season or since the pandemic, where I felt like that is a true, it wasn't even like, I don't think sold out, but like felt like a true home crowd, felt like what it should be like, felt loud.
It had that ruckus energy.
Yeah, they brought the ruckus, my man. I loved it. Let's get into these goddamn picks, though. As you can see, I got the schedule up here.
Let's do it.
Utah at Stanford started off 7:30 p.m. FS1. This is a Friday game, folks, y'all. Utes versus the Cardinal.
It's a Friday game. It's after dark.
After dark.
I'm going Utes, baby.
You're going Utes, so you're going the safe pick. I mean, you already know where I'm going.
Yep, if you keep your word.
But not only that, but I mean, you said it yourself, dude. This is Pac-12 after dark. This is a Friday game. This is a team that we just said that is a shoo-in for the Pac-12 South, and they're taking on a team who has looked straight bad. A dead in the water Stanford. That can only mean that Stanford is going to defend the farm and get the win in front of 0 people watching this game in the stands. And so for that, my pick will be the Stanford Cardinal, my favorite team. I mean, not my favorite team.
Busted.
Do you think I got a shot in this, Hith? Do I have a shot at Stanford winning? Possible,
sure.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Is it a good shot?
I mean, no. But weird upsets happen in the Pac-12 all the time.
Yeah. Wazoo.
We've already seen one for Stanford.
Exactly. Yeah. They've beaten the best team in college football in 2021, so they can beat Utah. After that, we got California at Arizona, 12 p.m. Pac-12 Network. This is a tough one, my man. Cal, definitely on the up and up. After beating beating the Beavs. Arizona needs a win. What?
Here's what I think is crazy.
What?
For some weird reason, I actually think Arizona's going to win this game.
Oh.
But it's anti-Arizona year. Going with Cal.
You're going with Cal, but you think Arizona's going to win this game?
Something in my bubbles tell me that Arizona's going to win this one.
It would be extremely Pac-12 for Arizona to win this game.
Yeah. And I got to go with them. I'm going with your heart. And so next week, when we get to this point in the show and you see Arizona won, just remember you doubted your own heart. And that's why this happened to you.
I went with my head.
Same thing. One or the other.
Anti-Arizona year, baby.
Okay. Oregon State. I hope Arizona wins.
I mean,
I hope Arizona wins one.
He went against a 15-point line on Arizona sucks to pick Wazoo over Arizona State and was rewarded for it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That game alone got both of our tickets to the national championship.
Oh, shit. I forgot to put the money on it. Oh
No, I
no.
put money on it. Don't worry.
Oh, good. Well, then you're paying.
I'm a
Oregon-
millionaire now because of that game.
Oregon State at Colorado. I would
Ooh.
love to be at this game because I want to go to Boulder sometime. Beavs versus Buffs.
Oof.
Both coming off a loss.
Oregon State, Colorado. And that defense thing was unusual, but still, it colors the situation.
Well, the offense thing was unusual for Colorado.
I think Colorado's going to win this game.
You think Colorado's going to win it?
I do.
I'm glad you said that because I even though last week I felt confident in the Beavs, I'm feeling confident in them again. Hopefully I won't. So
Good for you.
this is
Good for you.
natural. I'm choosing naturally. I don't even need to go against you. I know this is gonna happen. Beavs gonna win. Lock it. Boom.
Fifth?
Oh, I mean, Oregon State should win. Well, but,
See, this is a whole screwy week we got going on here. All these games are all screwy.
Yeah, no, this is a screwy week. You're right. Oregon at Washington. Let's say our picks at the same time on the count on 0 here. 3, 2, 1. Oregon. Okay, there we go. Oregon Ducks, baby. And this will be. Let's just talk for a minute here.
The Ducks.
Hythloday, what would be a more crushing loss than Washington? Let's say to win by like 2. Let's say they beat the Ducks 14-0. What would be a more crushing loss than that you can remember? Like the most recent crushing loss that felt that bad. Maybe not even 14-0. Let's just say they beat us. Doesn't even matter how. I feel like I can't even remember a loss. I guess ASU, but it would feel worse than that, in my opinion.
I didn't feel crushed by that loss.
Yeah.
If Oregon loses this game 14-0, I would feel like the 2007 game against Arizona when Dennis Dixon's knee blew up.
Damn. That's dark. That's as bad as it. That's dark. I mean, because I imagine speaking for you here, where it's like it's just because how bad this Washington team is, and so for them to be the thing that you stumbled on, and you're no longer going to be making the playoffs in a season where you beat Ohio State, it would truly, and you would be giving the Washington Huskies fans something to like live on for so goddamn long. I agree with you, Hith. Like maybe the Alamo Bowl, because I felt pretty crushed. Obviously that's me being a very privileged Duck fan. Like I've grown up in such great times for the Oregon Ducks, or been a fan of the Oregon Ducks in such amazing peaks that little, that huge embarrassment there. You still had 9 wins in a season, so maybe it wouldn't be as bad, but I would say it would hurt me about as bad as that Alamo Bowl to lose this Washington game.
This reminds me that we haven't actually done a game preview in forever. But I wanted to ask a question about this.
What's that?
How good is Washington at stopping quarterback runs?
Bad.
Great. Well, then I don't have any issues with this game. I was beginning to fear that something was going to tragically happen.
I like to
the only touchdown they gave up to Stanford was a quarterback run.
I like to think that Aaron did exactly, I mean, this isn't what happened, but exactly what Joe Moorhead did planning for this game coming in. He was just like, how bad are they at stopping the quarterback from running? And they went bad. And he's like, all right, I got my plan now. I know what we got to do. Like, I figured it out.
Dude, that might be all he needs to do.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Honestly, the biggest thing that I'm worried about in this game, I'm not kidding about this at all, the biggest thing I'm worried about in this game as an Oregon fan is that Joe Moorhead will outsmart himself and try to do, fun stuff against Washington's defense because their pass defense is pretty good when he doesn't need to at all. That's my number one concern is Joe Moorhead being like, it can't possibly be as easy as just run the ball on every play. I've got to do some weird. Oh no, we turned it over again.
Yeah.
He's gonna John Malkovich himself.
Especially because it's so funny, like take the Ohio State playbook, like play by play, just use that goddamn thing. Like the way we were just slowly marching up methodically, like that's what we need. It'd be so lovely to see. Ducks gonna win, baby. Now I just jinxed us. USC at Arizona State is the final game on the slate, 7:30 p.m. ESPN. Man, two defeated teams. I mean, it's even at least USC, at least they can be like, well, we're going to get a new coach. There's going to be optimism.
I kind of think Arizona State's going to get a new coach too.
Yeah. Oof. I mean, there's I'll say this conspiracy theory. I heard I forget who, but some credible writer said something less credible where he was like, I'm hearing rumors that a certain Pac-12 coach will be out this season, keeping it nice and vague. Who knows if any of that is true, but you would assume it'd be Herm Edwards if this is the next coach going to get fired. And I really don't think it's going to be Chip Kelly, but I mean, if Chip Kelly wasn't Chip Kelly, you look at his resume, you would definitely be thinking maybe it's time to move on from this dude.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. But USC at Arizona State, Aaron. Sun Devils versus the Trojans, the Texas team.
I think we all know where I'm going with this one, Adam.
What's that? USC.
I'm going with that Texas T.
Okay, going with the Texas T.
It's an anti-Arizona year.
Yeah, that is your catchphrase.
It is. I'm just gonna nail it in there.
P.S. If you're a listener and you're living in the state or from the state or love the state of Arizona, but you're a big fan of us, fuck you. No.
Also, if you have a team that you'd like me to be, or a state for that matter, to be anti next year, send it in and I'll do it.
We'll add it to the list.
Thanks
for listening, fans in Arizona. But F off. I'll go with Arizona State just because it's as good of a guess as any.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Adam, at the beginning of this segment, you said you're going to go completely against me, but yet
I didn't.
You picked Oregon. You have to pick Washington.
I don't have to do shit.
You do. You have to hold your word.
I'm the Hythloday. Do you think who are you going to side with?
I will never encourage anyone to pick Washington.
There you go. I'm sticking with the Ducks. Without
y'all's morality is very bendable.
Without London, what are you intrigued of what USC is going to look like, or are you being like, why should I pay attention to this dead corpse of a team? Why should I try to throw in what strategies they got hanging out there? Or, I mean, obviously there's players that are still going to be on the roster, but a lot of them probably won't be on the roster next season. Do you?
To be perfectly honest, my interest in USC has waned, pretty considerably because Oregon doesn't play them in 2021 or 2022.
That's right.
And the only reason they would play them is if they made the Pac-12 championship game, and this team's so bad. That I don't think they'll make it they're definitely not going to make it this year, and I don't think they're going to make it in 2022. And it's okay, I guess I'll start paying attention to them again sometime in the middle of 2023. So I definitely will cop to I have stopped really trying to suss out what's exactly wrong with USC.
You sound like every USC fan that is on Reign of Troy right now and is forced to watch USC.
I mean, basically. Listen to their podcast. They've kind of given up too.
They're so funny.
I'm not trying to indict them at all. It's just they're the emotional energy to really engage and solve these problems. It's it's just not there.
I forget what it was, but the other day it was like instead of previewing the upcoming school, the upcoming week, they were just like, all right, let's talk about some coaching candidate, because it's just like I would be in the same thing if I was seeing Oregon look like how USC looks out there and their head coach was already fired, and not only that, but I had been living under the abusive head coachingness of Clay Helton for years of just having to watch that team. I would be this podcast. We wouldn't even be freaking previewing Washington. We'd be talking about, I don't know, scary movies or something like that. But I love
we have done that.
And we have done that. Yes,
we have done that.
I actually was listening to shout out to Reign of Troy, wonderful podcast, because I was actually listening to them, and they ended it with a wonderful segment where because they're engaged, and so I love hearing the like soon to be married people quabbles get into the podcast. And they were talking about like hangers and how they need to buy like new hangers, but they all got to look the same. I loved it. We got to do more rambling on this podcast.
I tried to, but you keep it steered pretty well.
Yeah, well, we just need to get more references in there. So that is that's it, my friend. That's the pick'ems. I went against you with everyone except for the game that matters against Washington. Later this week, actually, we're going to be talking to a Washington Huskies knowledgeable mind. What am I? Expert. Why was that so hard?
There you go.
A Washington Huskies expert coming up on the Quack 12 podcast later this week. We're going to be breaking down the roster. It should be, hopefully we'll learn some stuff. And
does this expert have a name?
I don't know it. Sometimes I like to keep it vague too, because you don't know. Sometimes these guests, they pop on, then they can't do it. Then you got to get a new one. But keep it nice and vague. And I just say Washington Huskies expert that you're going to love.
Right.
They know. So keep your eye out for that. Hyth and I will be breaking down that guy's mind, seeing how these Huskies are going to be attacking us. Huge game. I mean, it's hate week, Aaron. Do you feel the hate in your heart? Do you?
No, I don't. I hate the concept of hate week. I think it's stupid.
Yeah. See, this is where this is the one place, one of the places you're falling as an Oregon Ducks fan. We got to get that hate in your heart. So it can grow into a seed.
No, what we need to do is get that country fair air into my lungs.
Oh boy, Aaron, we'll get you to hate Seattle yet, the city you currently live in.
It won't happen.
All right. Hythloday, it was a pleasure having you on as always. At Hythloday, the number 1 on Twitter. At HYTHLODAY, the number 1. Addicted to Quack is where you can find his wonderful articles entitled Duct Tape, in which he breaks down either the previous week before or the upcoming opponent for the Oregon Ducks. Once again, on Addicted to Quack is where you can find those. Hythloday, I rarely ask you this, but I want a score prediction from you. Oregon versus Washington. Let's hear it to end this podcast. I want a score prediction.
Oh, I think it'll be a relatively low-scoring game. I trust that Moorhead will do the smart thing and just run the ball a lot, which probably means a relatively low possession game. So I think we're probably looking at like 24-10, or 27-13, something in that neighborhood.
That'd feel nice. Oh my God, those like SEC. Well, even nowadays that doesn't even mean it, but that low scoring kind of game, I would love that. But still a dominant.
It's a game that Oregon's in control of the whole time, but probably not going to crack 40. Just because it's they're probably only going to have 9 or 10 possessions in the game, and
I agree, and I, again, playing conservatively, I'm with a lead in Seattle. I am fine with that. Aaron, what about you? You got a score prediction? Maybe this is a week you can just nail it.
I'm gonna say they do crack 40. They're gonna get 42 points, and I'm gonna say there will be 3 score-winning drives that are 5 plays or under.
3 score winning. Okay. I'm not quite
21
sure.
Points will be scored.
Okay.
Off of 5 plays or less.
Wow. I like how specific that was. Thank you for that, Aaron. I'm going to put money on that.
Washington will make 1 field goal.
Okay.
That's
There
it.
you go. That's it. So you're saying 42-3. I like it.
Baby.
That's a
It's gonna be
dominant beatdown.
42-3.
Well, okay, and then so my prediction. As for my prediction,
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about this week. By the way, this is the Quack 12 Podcast at Quack 12 Podcast on Twitter. I'm thinking we lose.